add everybody to here, we'll all be able to hear us. You would think after a couple of weeks, a couple of months, almost a year now, you would think I would remember to turn all this stuff on. And also, you would think I'd also remember this is the Tuesdays Wrestling Talk, so you'd think I'd actually put this on instead of what we had on. Hey, last week, if you'll remember, last episode we did World Championship Wrestling. I think I messed up pretty much on that one too, didn't I?
No, I don't think so.
At least we're being consistent.
Yeah.
Well, now did I not call? I'm not for sure, but did I not say that that Magnum TA was the Jezebel from the street? Did I not say
I believe that was 2 weeks ago.
It was 2 weeks ago. Okay, so maybe I can
last week
come back from that.
Last week I did the rundown, and everybody was saying how awesome it was.
Well, they did do that. Do you have it? Since they said you were awesome, do you have that rundown?
From the yeah, I do.
All right, let's just go ahead. Let's start it right now. World Championship Wrestling.
I don't have the one where David Crockett was doing the commentary and messing up people's names. I think that they don't want that scene. I think they might have been some people.
Speaking of which,
yes,
a worthy official. Watch it.
Yes, beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
When our T-shirts get on Pro Wrestling Tees, and we did get that approved today, all we've got to do is put some shirts on there. So, folks, look forward to it. Sometime by the end of the week, we will have Pro Wrestling Tees. We'll be selling our T-shirts on Pro Wrestling Tees, and we'll let you know that on the Facebook page when it happens. All right, World Championship Wrestling. That's what we're going to talk about right now. July 13th, 1985. Rodney, go ahead and take it away.
2 weeks in a row. What can I say? Anyway, we start off the show. We're showing a cage match from the Great American Bash between Dusty Rhodes and Tully Blanchard. We got about 10 seconds of that, and then we go to the World Championship Wrestling opening, and then we hit with Tony and David, where they announce we have new World Tag Team Champions. The Rock and Roll Express defeat the Russians for the NWA World Tag Team Championship, and we have a brand new NWA World Television Champion. Dusty Rhodes defeats Tully Blanchard, and he also wins Baby Doll, her services, if you will, for 30 days, and it's awesome later on in the show. In an interview, we also see the first appearance of Terry Taylor as he comes on board, and he talks about the national champion, Blackboard, and hopefully he will be able to face Blackbart in future. I have a feeling that's going to happen. I don't know about you. First match on the card is Rocky King against the Nature Boy, Buddy Landel. And Buddy Landel, of course, managed by James J. Dillon. Jack, what did you think about this one?
It was a pretty good match. Buddy was showing, how good he is. I think I would have liked Rocky getting a little bit more, but it was an entertaining match, so I was good with it.
Brent, what did you think of Buddy Landel against Rocky King?
Yeah, Landel was very good. Landel was very good, and but as always, I'd like to see, like Jack, Rocky King needed to get a little bit more.
Hey, Rocky was in awesome shape, was he not?
Yes.
He was just in tremendous shape. In the end, it's Buddy Landel winning with the spinning elbow into the figure four leg lock. And, of course, J.J. Dillon had to get in and try to help him break the hold. Once it's like a vice grip, it needs to help of trying to get it off. Then we have an interview with the new NWA World Television Champion, Dusty Rhodes. And, of course, he introduces that Baby Doll is now his valet for the next 30 days. Brent, what do you think about this one?
I enjoyed the interview. I thought the interview was really good. I thought that Dusty in good fashion was I'll be honest with you, I thought Baby Doll was tremendous as well later on. So it was some good television.
Jack?
Yeah, I agree. Good stuff.
And then that's when Dusty introduces or talks about the Superstation. What was it? Superstation series. The Super Series on the Superstation, where he's going to defend the World Television title for 10 weeks I wish we'd have been able to see that. I thought it would have been awesome to see 10 different ones. And then we come back with another interview with Tully Blanchard, and he talks about Dusty and Baby Doll. He also mentions Terry Taylor and Magnum TA, the U.S. heavyweight champion. Brent, Tully, always class act.
Oh, the interviews that he does are just tremendous. I truly think that Tully Blanchard is the best of this whole group right now. I mean, he is so good. But I was going to say something. I was going to say something. Now I forgot what I'm. This is just not my day. I don't think. I've been better off just letting Jack and Rodney do the show.
Short time, and because of vacation time, obviously coming up.
Maybe so. Maybe that's what the problem
is. So, what were you going to say? Do you remember?
I don't know. Maybe it'll come back to me in 3 years. I remember what it is.
Really, really shining on this. He's turning out to be a star, and he wasn't over the top in his interview. There was no hollering, no screaming. He was just matter of fact talking about what happened with he and Dusty and telling the story. And all eyes was on Tully. I'll just tell you. I just think all eyes, and he was credible in his delivery of that interview. Match number 2 has the Sawyers, Bruz and Brett against Randy Barber and George South. And Brent, what did you think about this one?
I want to be honest with you. I wouldn't want to get in there with Buzz and Brett, especially Buzz. Buzz was killing them poor old dude. And I mean, but truly great match though. I enjoyed the match. I thought the match was tremendous. But boy, Buzz was the real deal. There ain't no doubt.
Yeah, and you don't realize how big he is. Buzz is big. He might not be tall wise, but he is thick, and he really lays it in. Of course, during the match, they talk about the Andersons and also the Midnight Express. Match number 4 brings out the Midnight Express to face Terry Flynn and Jason Walker. Jack, what did you think about this one?
I thought it was a well-paced match. Highlighted all those great spots, top rope stuff that Bobby does, and it's just a great Midnight Express match.
Brent?
Usually I like the Midnight Express, but there was something about this match that I just didn't like. And they did a lot of things, and they did new things, and they tried new things. And I think some of the stuff was a little dangerous that they was trying with the guys, especially that finish. They about dropped that poor guy right on his head, and I don't know. I can't remember which one was it. Terry Flynn.
Terry Flynn, yeah. Connery did the second rope power slam that they've done, many times. But he ended up on his head, I think. And I think so David. I think David or Tony said about that match.
But I usually love the Midnight Express, but this for some reason that was something off about this one. I don't know.
I will tell you, What it came over to me is they were not taking things seriously. I think that's what was the turnoff on me on that one. Next is the interview with Magnum TA, the United States champion. He talks Rock and Roll Express, Dusty. He talks about he and Dusty becoming now America's team. I wonder where Dusty got that, Brent. Do you know?
I don't know. I think he was watching the commercials, and he came up with the Americans team since that was the Atlanta Braves. But you would think they would have been some problem with TBS saying you can't use that. You can't be caught telling yourself the minute. But they evidently didn't, because they called them that for months. So.
Yeah, for months. What did you think, Jack?
Oh, it's great. It's great. I love the America's team name. It really applied for them.
And then it was Arn Anderson coming out there getting in Magnum's face. I love that. He tells him, hey, and in typical Anderson form, watch out for the Andersons. I love that. He said, not to be by yourself. Don't be by yourself, Magnum. I loved it. Okay, then
wasn't Magnum TA by himself at that point, or was I guess Dusty was there with him?
No, he was there. He was just there by himself. He was just warning him. I think that it's nice to give people warnings when you're eventually going to beat them up. It gives you the chance, to say, don't show up. And if you do, it's your fault you get beat up. Okay, then match number 5, which was a complete surprise to me, was Dick Slater against Gerald Finley. Jack, what did you think about this one?
It was a good fast-paced match. He gave Gerald just enough, to keep the match paced very, very well. As we've seen in the past, Gerald if you give him too much, he kind of loses his train of thought, I guess you would say. So he gave him just enough comeback that he could take right back over, and it was I thought it was a really good match.
Brent?
Yeah, I liked it, but I like Dick Slater. To me, Dick Slater was so smooth in the ring. Everything he did looked good. So this just made Dick Slater get over even better. And I think maybe soon Dick Slater's gone. So I think maybe because I know he goes books Mid-South Wrestling at some point. So
yeah. Later in the year it is. In the end, it's a suplex followed by the abdominal stretch, falling back into a pin. Dick Slater over Gerald Finley. Then we have another interview with Dusty, and he brings out Baby Doll, and it's good TV. It is good TV. Jack, what do you think about this?
Oh, that was very entertaining. I like the way she told him off, and then she starts to leave, and Magnum drags her back, and then she runs her mouth, and he has Magnum to drag her off. That was, it was like you say, that was really good TV.
Baby Doll was really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
She was tremendous, and then what's so sad about it, she was so good. And then by 1986, the end of 1986, she disappears. It just made no sense to me. She was too good to make her do. I think she could have been a huge, huge star, even in WWE, WWF.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And then every show has to have its part where people go to the restroom or get something out of the refrigerator, and here's one of them. They call him the notorious Kevin Sullivan, and he lives up to every single bit of that. Brent?
I've been strapped to the tree of woe. Is that the only interview that Kevin Sullivan knew, Jack?
Pretty much, because we heard it everywhere.
I was always hoping the tree of woe would fall on him. Try to get up after that, Kevin. Ends up talking about Dick Slater. It was 2-minute interview, and as far as I'm concerned, it was 2 minutes too long.
I want to know what he said because I didn't understand any of it.
Well, he's the 13 to the 13, and
Hey, look,
and I don't know what he was saying.
Did the Ultimate Warrior listen to Kevin Sullivan? Is that where he got his interview skills from?
Could very well be.
Because I never understood what the Ultimate Warrior said as well.
They came from apparently the same interview school. All right, so now match number 6, the national champion Black Bart against Gene Ligon, and Terry Taylor was at the desk. Brett, what did you think about this one?
I don't know. I front stood up.
Oh, did you? Well, in the end, I guess. In the end, I want you to know that Black Bart wins. Jack, was that a surprise to you?
I just want to say that this match was so much better than Terry Taylor's commentary.
True.
I honestly wanted to go out there and just hit him and say, come on, get excited about what you're doing out here. And it didn't get any better when they confronted each other at the desk either.
Yeah, Black
Bart.
He takes
the swing, he takes the coat off like Bart should just, and he does, of course, but he just stands there. He's fuming. But Terry's just like, well, here, let me take my coat off. Oh, let me get this tie. Let me get this tie. I didn't buy it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. I froze that up. I couldn't take another Black Bart match. I'm sorry.
Match number 7. Brett, did you watch this one? It's Jimmy Valiant against the Barbarian with number 1, Paul Jones. Did you check this one out?
Yes, I did. I did see that. There's no doubt I saw it. I thought it was tremendous. Jimmy Valiant's always good. I enjoy watching him and the Barbarian, and I thought it was good. And I loved when Paul Jones came in and he got a hold of him. I thought it was tremendous stuff.
Yep. It shows these are seasoned professionals. exactly what this showed. Jack, what did you think?
Oh, I loved it. Jimmy Valiant is one of the greatest I've ever seen as far as, engaging that crowd from the time he comes out till the time he leaves the arena. If you're not getting into a Jimmy Valiant match, you got to be dead sitting in your seat.
Yeah.
Because, man, he is fire.
In the end, it's Jimmy Valiant hitting the sleeper hold, I believe it was, and then Paul Jones coming in. And then in the end, it's Barbarian and Paul Jones doubling up. Barbarian throws Jimmy Valiant over the top rope, hangs him by that collar with Paul Jones on the outside of the ring, just pounding him. And then people come out, and then they disperse. Then it's the interview with Paul Jones and the Barbarian. Jones talked about the dog collar matches. They go back and re-show where the little boy, the boogie boy, gives him the package with the dog collar on. And now he's talking about matches where he's going to have 5 minutes, 5 minutes all alone with Paul Jones, and then the dog collar matches. And he said, I only signed for one. I thought I only signed for one, but I'm having a bunch of these dog collar matches. Jones.
All over the world.
Yes, all over the world.
I love that. I love that. But when the kid came out and gave him that gift, that was tremendous the way it was done. Now, Paul Jones was a little slow getting to the opening the gift. The announcer, what was the announcer? Was it Bob Cottle?
Bob Cottle.
Bob Cottle kind of had to help him get into it, but to me it was tremendous. Just the way it was done, the music starting, the whole thing. I loved it.
Yeah.
Match number 8 has Terry Taylor against Mike Nichols. And Taylor normally was using the flying forearm, but not in this one. I guess there was too many of them. Manny Fernandez had dibs on that, I guess. I don't know. But in the end, it's Terry Taylor winning the match with a sleeper hold over Mike Nichols. And that was a surprise, being Terry Taylor's first appearance on the program. In another interview is Jimmy Valiant. And of course, he knocks the microphone out of Tony's hand. He was on fire. Jack, what do you think about this?
Oh, I love it. I love his interviews. You just gotta believe he's so fired up. Always so fired up.
Yeah.
Brent?
Yeah, Jimmy Valiant, just his interviews. He knew how to sell himself. He knew how to sell the matches that he had coming up, and Jimmy Valiant was a true professional.
Next, we have another interview with the new World Tag Team Champions, Ricky Morton, Robert Gibson, Rock and Roll Express. Brett?
I'll tell you what I loved about this interview. I gotta tell you what I enjoyed about it. Robert Gibson says during his interview, he says, well, I'm going to defend these things. And then Tony Schiavone has to say, yeah, we're going to defend those things. And he goes over to Ricky Morton, and Ricky Morton started that was hilarious. I enjoyed that. I don't know if Tony was just making fun of Robert. I'm not for sure.
Yes, he was making fun of him. Yes, he was making fun of him. I would have too.
That was great. That was I'm going to remember that. And, well, probably me, I say remember before I die. But I may forget it next week. So.
All right, match number 9 has Adrian Bivens against Arn Anderson. Jack?
Arn.
Oh, excuse me. Arn
almost lost. But then the match started, and and Adrian poor guy didn't stand a chance. It's a good match, though. I mean, it built Arn, whatever his name is.
Yes.
Yeah, that Anderson kid that never really went anywhere. He did good.
Brett?
Yeah, Arn's always good. Arn never has been really given the credit he deserves. No. He got stuck into that 4 horseman thing, and that's all he was at. Always the underneath of Ric Flair, and Arn was so good that he should have never been this thought of as
he should have been featured just like Tully. Tully got lost in the same thing because Tully they were individuals, really.
Maybe at some point we need to do a what if show. What if there was no Ric Flair? He would have been world champion during that time period.
Yeah,
write that down because we'll forget it.
Oh, yeah, Right there.
In the end, it was Arn Anderson doing the Anderson slam on the arm, going into the arm bar, and it's Arn Anderson as the winner in that one. And of course, interview with Arn Anderson. Then we have match number 10, the Rock and Roll Express, in their initial appearance on World Championship Wrestling against Larry Clark and Chuck Levins. Jimmy Cornette's at the desk. Brent?
What in the world was he doing the interview acting like he didn't even know the Rock and Roll Express was?
Maybe they told him to do it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, they're ignoring Mid-South. Just, I think Mid-South did the same. So now, but you got to remember, watch this. The greatest line of the entire show was when Jim Cornette said, "Shut up, David."
Yeah, that was. I remember. I've always said some things they should not show in slow mo, and that double drop kick was one.
Oh yeah.
That was not good. Not good at all. But Rock and Roll Express winning with a double drop kick in their debut on World Championship Wrestling. They end the program with Tully Blanchard talking about Baby Doll and the treatment that Dusty, and he said he would have to. He called Dusty manure in that. I wonder what he meant by that.
He did that one.
Sure.
Tully was so good during this.
He was. He really was.
Pretty good show. It was a pretty good show. I frontwards up just once. When you only just hit that frontwards button once. Well, you don't really hit a frontwards button when you're watching on YouTube, though. You just kind of slide it until it's over. And so that's what I do. Good show. And I guess next week, I'm not for sure. Rodney, do you know if July 20th, I guess it's July 20th, is it available on YouTube?
Well, if we can begin talking to our insiders, and I will check that out while you are beginning to get their expert opinions on the fantastic extravaganza.
Make sure you check with us, because we are going to be talking about World Championship Wrestling again. A lot of things start happening on World Championship Wrestling on TBS, so you'll want to stay tuned for that. Okay, here we go. The Insiders, Michael Barr is with us. Hello from Southeast Alabama. Glenn Allen Shelton, good evening. Good evening to you. Chaplain Freddie Rooster Roper. Hello, everyone. Merry Christmas to you and your families. A Merry Christmas to you as well. Dr. Philbo Grice. Good evening, distinguished gentlemen. Checking in from Nashville tonight. Daniel Lang. Greetings, gentlemen. Good evening to you, Daniel. Once again, thank you so much for supporting our channel. We certainly do appreciate it. Michael Barr said, Brent, you messed up big time. Well, it won't be the first time, won't be the last.
Go big or go home. That's our motto.
That's right. If you're going to mess up big time. James William Lawrence III. Hello, gentlemen. Sorry I missed a few episodes. Well, we have been talking a lot of wrestling, and Rodney's made a lot of people still mad, James. So you've not.
What? They're only mad because I'm telling them the truth. They can't help.
Leonard Gross said, hello, everyone. Lance Russell here with Dave Brown, right along ringside. Oh, wait, this ain't Saturday. I love Lance Russell. Lance Russell was so good. He was good. He made the show.
He really did. And he helped tell that story. And you've got to have somebody in that position to tell that story.
Victor Nash, hello, guys. Again, all the way from Miami, Florida. Mike Shields is with us. Greetings from Illinois and happy holidays. Happy holidays to you. Hello again, Victor. Richard Hood, fellas, just checked in. Thank you so much, Richard. We certainly do appreciate it. James William Lawrence III. Landell was such a great talker. Jack, do you agree with this?
I don't think there's anything Landell couldn't do well.
Yeah. How about you, Rodney?
Yeah, Landell was fantastic in his and then it was not like anybody else's interview when he was doing it. He was copying nobody. He was completely an original.
That's right. I said it.
That's right. He said it.
Mickey Mayfield, that dress Baby Doll had on looked like she found it at the thrift store, and she didn't look very happy with it on. Well, I think that was the whole point, wasn't it? Well, I mean, I think that was he was going to make her look presentable.
Yeah.
Victor Nash, first Dylan was helping to apply pressure on the hole before he actually broke it. That was good stuff. And again, James J. Dillon didn't even do an interview on the show.
Nope. He was back helping. He was back helping getting everybody out there. That's what he was doing. He was coordinating.
Kevin said with all those picks, Rodney needs a Kevin Sullivan pick on the wall.
Will it be the Golden Spike or what? I could not find if there is actually a July the 20th show. So we'll keep you up to date on that. But at this point, I could not find a 7.
Well, it won't be next week anyway. It'll be the following week. We're not doing a live stream either Monday or Tuesday next week. We're taking off for Christmas, and then we'll come back the very next week and do some other shows. Who did Baby Doll actually belong to?
Her mom and dad.
I don't know what. I wonder what. I'm not for sure how to answer that question.
During this show, she was the valet to Dusty because Dusty had won her for 30 days. They've done this in several other places as well, where they've had valet for the day or for 30 days or what have you.
Richard Hood said Rocky King should have gotten the push. Super cool guy. He helped me out one day with my SUV. Yeah. Y'all guys agree with that?
Yeah, he's
great guy. Great guy.
And he was a great wrestler. Great worker.
Yes.
Michael Barr said senior moments again. Yeah, I have a lot of those as I've gotten older. So, Brent, you need a 5-hour energy. If I took a 5-hour energy, Victor, that you would be seeing me. I'd be doing this show right now from the hospital when it ran my blood pressure so far up. It might kill me, actually.
That would be very exciting, though. With the ambulance ride, we could get the ambulance ride there. We could get in the emergency room. I mean, it would be fantastic. The paddles, maybe get the paddles on. I don't know.
Rodney, you had to stop the 5-hour energy drinks, didn't you?
Yeah, I only could drink half of one.
Jack, do you drink these energy drinks?
Oh no, I don't.
I think they might kill me.
I like sleeping at night.
It made my innards quiver.
Kevin Finley said, "Do you think Stan Lane was better in the Midnight Express or the Fabulous Ones?" Jack,
Midnight Express.
Yeah. If I was going to choose, I'm going to say I just didn't think they were any good as the Fabulous Ones. I don't know. I've seen videos of them. I just didn't enjoy the matches at all. Rodney?
Yeah, probably better as the Midnight Express. The Fabulous Ones in Memphis, I tried to watch that. I was seeing how they were not watchable. They were just not watchable.
Scott Dalton said, Brett Sawyer kind of got me into the business. Underrated. He was. He really was, because Brett was really a good wrestler.
He was.
A great wrestler. Knew what he was doing, no doubt. Michael Barr said the Sawyers were two tough tag team partners. Buzz Sawyer was a tough man.
Yeah.
Yes, he was. I wouldn't have wanted to mess with him.
No. Hey, when you're going to beat up some M&Ms, hey, he beat you up.
Kevin said, how did they pick Stan to replace Dennis Condrey? Wasn't he working the Florida territory at the time?
I think so.
So I think it was just one of those things that, hey, he was available, because I believe by that time I'm thinking Crockett was running the Florida territory with Mike Graham, wasn't he? And Stan Lane was there. I think Steve Kern was there too at the time, but I think he left to be Skinner, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think you're right.
That was a great gimmick, by the way. We're talking about great gimmicks. Ooh. Why did they use him as that? I mean, it's so much stuff they could take him, but put him as Skinner.
I don't know. He's such a good-looking guy, and you put him in that scruffy beard and that whole outfit and everything.
Just made no sense. Richard Hood, when Bobby Eaton would do the Alabama Jam, he would almost hit the lights in the TBS studio.
Yeah, he would.
He did a lot of that stuff off the top rope and during this show. I can tell you that. Victor Nash, I didn't like how the Rock and Roll match ended with a double drop kick. Well, that was their finish.
It was
the beginning, but it just looked horrible.
It looked horrible. They should not have done the replay. They should have said, or Dusty or JJ should have said, no, don't re-show that. Don't re-show. Forget it.
Michael Barr said, do either of the three you remember there was a Midnight Express Incorporated?
Sure
yes.
Is. Norvell Austin, Randy Rose, and Dennis Condrey.
And for a while, I think a Honky Tonk Man was in that as well, Wayne Ferris. Maybe in one other guy in there at some point. And they wrestled for Southeast.
Saito was an associate, I believe.
Yeah, I believe you might have been right.
And Norvell has resurfaced again.
Hey.
Yes, I noticed that.
Yep.
Yeah, I got in touch with him on Facebook, so maybe we can talk to him one day with his son.
That'll be awesome.
Yeah. Greg Hickey, good evening, guys. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you. Glenn Allen says started in Memphis. I'm not for sure who we were talking about. Magnum TA should have beat Arn Anderson right there and then.
You would have thought if somebody warned you like that, you just we don't have to wait. We can just do it right here. Boom.
Michael Barr said, okay, Rodney, Kevin Sullivan has sent you a warning. You need Jack's shirt that reads, watch it. I'm pretty sure Rodney can probably outrun.
Well, Brent's froze up. I think Brent's froze up there. Well, there
he's back.
I think we all froze up there for a while.
That's what you get.
Just sad Magnum had that car crash and what could have been. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Total tragedy.
Yeah, he was TA was so good. Slater was great, but later on his knees started to slow him down a lot. Hated his run in WCW toward the end of his career with that cowboy group. Can't remember their names. Well, I thought they was part of the was Dick Slater part of that thing with Rick Harris and Dutch Mantel? Or was that somebody else?
Yeah, I don't remember that.
Remember they were looking for Stan Hansen?
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't know who the third one, but I don't think Slater was in on that. I do remember I know what he's talking about as far as the outfit, because I think we have that picture out in our office here.
Is that when Dick Slater and Bunkhouse Buck teamed?
Yeah, I think you're right. Exactly right.
Was they the stud stable?
No, he was Colonel Rob Parker.
He was Colonel Rob Parker at the time. That's right.
Right.
Michael Barr said, "Spaced out."
I asked him one night. We were in the town. I said, "Didn't you used to work from Kentucky Fried Chicken?" He said, "No, but they used to call me the Chicken Man." He looked up and he said, "Doggone it, what are you doing to me?"
Still out there.
Nice. I mean, he was being nice. He was signing autographs, and I was heckling him.
Sullivan said he's going to put Dusty Rhodes' head on his mantle next to Dusty Rhodes. Yes, he did. Oh, I don't know. I just don't know about those interviews. They was just crazy. Michael Barr said, Kevin and Ultimate, we're on the same wavelength.
Yes.
Oh.
Which is probably why the aliens still won't talk to us.
I would have loved, Kevin said, I would have loved to see Dick Slater, Bob Orton Jr. in the prime. Oh, man, if you missed them in 1976, 77, 78 in Atlanta. Oh, some tremendous matches. Wrestling 2, Bob Orton Jr., great matches. Wrestling 2, Dick Slater, great matches. You missed it. I wish I could go back and watch Dick Slater and Wrestling 2 wrestle. I think I'd never be bored from their matches.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Daniel Wayne said your Christmas gifts are on the way, guys. Free memberships to the official Kevin Sullivan fan club. Happy holidays.
Well, thank you, Daniel. Thank you. It's always the thought that counts.
Victor Nash said, I remember Paul Jones wore that yellow suit, looked like Big Bird. Richard Hood said, Rodney, everything Kevin said came from a Hindu religion. Victor Nash said more like devil worshiping. I don't know. Well, let's see. Let's because we need to get to the next thing. So I'm going to see where we're at here. Victor Nash said, how you win a match with an armbar like Arn did. Well, you got to remember now that was their finishing hold.
Right.
The Andersons for years. So
the Anderson slam on the arm and then right into the arm bar.
And wrestling was still wrestling back then too.
Arn Anderson made his name for sure. Kevin says, since Terry Taylor was kind of boring, would you have turned him ill sooner? Guys?
No. We went from bad to worse. It was
the only thing worse than a Terry Taylor babyface interview is a heel interview.
Yeah, it was not good. Actually, Terry Taylor's on the list with Kevin Sullivan, unwatchable for me.
Okay, we're going to get back to the
entertaining is watching a ring post.
We're going to get back to the insiders in just a moment.
Ring post interviews better than his too.
You remember when Southeastern used to ring their? They didn't have a bell; they just rung the side of the
post. Yeah, ring the post. That post said more than Terry Taylor did, I assure you. Clang, clang, clang.
Oh, I don't understand it. They did that on television. For goodness sakes, they did that on television.
They had a bell at the Arm Center. That made no sense.
Well, that goes back into the other deal is what in the world was they thinking? That's know what they were. Let's talk right now about, we talked about baby faces in wrestling, the fan favorite. Now let's talk about what makes a great heel, a bad guy. Jack, you were a bad guy for the majority of your career. What makes a good bad guy?
I think you have to be justified in the way that you are. You know, you have to understand that, and you have to get that across the fans is that it's not your fault that you're mean and low down and nasty. You know, there's other factors that played in. You've been cheated. You've been treated bad. Promoters, fans, other wrestlers. It's got to be a reason why you're a bad guy. And then you got to stick to your guns.
Rodney?
Right. A good one knows it doesn't matter whether you win or lose. No matter what happens in your interviews, you've always won. You've always won. Last week, then when we were down there in that town, I beat that man within an inch of his life. It's typical. You lie. You take on every single bad vice that there is as a good bad guy.
Is it not also important as a heel to know that your main objective is to get the baby face over?
It is.
Getting heat, for you to get heat is important, but it's also important to know that your job is to get a wrestler, get him over by the night or before the program is over. If it's a 13-week program, and you might be going to get a heat for the next 6 weeks, but you got to know that. Has there been wrestlers that did not understand that? And I think we know one that a couple of them. But Jack, have you seen guys that said, "Listen, I'm just going to get heat, and I don't ever want to put anybody over"?
Oh yeah, I saw. Especially at the independent level. Guys just don't understand. I used to take guys specifically, the good guys, the baby faces, and I would ask to work with them because I could make them look good. Now I still beat them majority of the time, but I knew how to give them those hope spots. I knew how to get the crowd into doing what they needed to do to get behind this guy. I knew that in order for me to be successful, I had to have a babyface that meant something. And, and that's one thing a lot of guys don't understand. You can't even equate it anymore because it's just spot after spot. Everybody just swaps out spots now. But back then, it was storytelling. And if you couldn't tell an effective story, it didn't last.
There was a lot of guys that wanted to get the heat, and they never wanted to pay back the baby face. Rodney, we've known a few of those guys. We don't really have to say their names. But how bad is that for a guy, Rodney, that gets all the heat, but when it comes time for him to get the because you're going to, in essence, you're going to kill the baby face off.
And that's the point. That's the point. They don't want to see, because they know when the blow off comes that their time in that territory they'll move on. It's very rare that a person in that role stays in the area. If you stay there too long, you end up opening the card. So you've got to be able to move on in lots of cases. There are some that just stay way too long in one place. And like I said, it turns out not to be to their interest. And that's one of the reasons that Dennis Condrey wanted to leave and go to work for the WWF. That's the reason of the split with Cornette and Bobby. He said, let's go to the WWF now while we have the chance, that the door is open. Let's go. They chose to stay. They thought they had better opportunities there. I think in the end, they would have been better off going and doing their skit through the WWF, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. I think so too, because when you look at Ted DiBiase, I think he was one of those guys that understood what he had to do for each babyface he wrestled against. He knew there was no one better to getting a guy over. He had the best matches with Jim Duggan, and Jim Duggan didn't have the matches. He wasn't going to get the wrestling number, I don't know, 5-star matches. He wasn't going to get those. But he came very close when he'd go against Ted DiBiase. DiBiase knew how to get him over. Yep. Ole Anderson also understood that.
Yes, absolutely.
And, Michael Barr is asked a question, and I think we all need it. Jack, Rodney, and Brent, is there such a thing as heels and baby faces in today's wrestling? Jack?
There are, but I don't think it's intentional. I think that promoters, and I think that the wrestlers who listen to these smart fans tend to think that they want all those lines blurred. And what the business needs to be successful is you got to have those. You got to have the good guys against the bad guys. That's just the nature of our industry. It's not just our industry. It's movies work that way. TV shows. You wouldn't. I love NCIS, but I wouldn't watch it if Gibbs was terrible to everybody. If he was a bad guy, really. So you want those baby faces and you want those heels. And I think that's where we've lost a lot of wrestling fans now, is there's no definition like there should be.
Brent's in slow motion now. I think he's still there. Obviously, you were so profound that you froze him. There's nothing happening there. And, of course, he was at one point during this, he sounded like Darth Vader, one of the greatest villains of all time.
I love that. Yeah.
Luke, I am your father.
So I came in very little.
Watch it, Tony. Watch it.
Hello there. Maybe I was the Black Scorpion instead.
It could have been.
There's another question here. Victor Nash asked the question. Do you guys know if Flair was ever a baby face? Because as far as I can remember, he's always been a heel. No, he has been a baby several times.
Yes, he has.
A very good baby face too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it typically, if you're good at one, you're good at the other.
Mm-hmm.
It's because of your ability to tell the story, whatever that it might be, and to know what role you're playing is important. But being able to tell that story, Ole was great. He could tell the story. If you haven't seen the turn where he turns on Dusty in the cage in Atlanta, you really missed it. It is one of the best interviews Ole's done. I think it was just awesome.
Tremendous.
Michael Barr asks, then like Jerry Stubbs, Mr. Olympia, which did turn several times, what is it called when a wrestler can go from heel to babyface, switch back and forth?
Normally dead, unable to draw. Once people lost it, once they've lost their to believe in you anymore, it's just it's over. If they say, well, he's just going to be good for a minute and he'll be bad next week again, it eventually people lose interest.
Let's see. Richard Hood said Ole Anderson was a better heel than babyface.
Yeah, it was hard. Although I have to admit, Ole and Jimmy Hart was beautiful. That was just great stuff, and that was Jimmy Hart. Jimmy Hart can be annoying, but Jimmy Hart knew his role. You could beat Jimmy Hart up every week, and he'll come right back on TV and build it all right back up again, and people pay to see him get beat up again. That's just that's talent. That's true talent.
Oh, Chad Coleman said, what I can't stand is how long will these guys be baby faces as women as they turn right back, heels. So that's the main problem WWE is having right now. They do change around a lot, don't they?
Yeah, as I said.
Yeah, Randy Orton is just a perpetual turn just waiting to happen.
Yeah, and people lose interest as far as I'm concerned. And like I said before on when we were reviewing WWE, if anybody ever says to you, "This is my best friend," you can be sure they'll be turning on you in a few weeks.
Yep.
Won't take long. Just waiting for their point.
Oh, Charles asked us the question, anyone have a story about getting heat to a point of having a fan attack the wrestler? Jack, I'll let you start with this.
Well, I had a guy one time we were having I don't remember if it was a singles match or tag match. There wound up being a lot of us in the ring at one time. And I remember the referee coming over there. Of course, he was like trying to separate everybody, but he told me, he said, there's a guy coming from the top of the stands. And now by this point, I was on the outside fighting with one of the good guys. And he's leaning through and he said, there's a guy coming from the top of the stands. I think he's going to jump the rail. So sure enough, and the babyface heard. So about the time the fan jumped the rail, I pushed the babyface back. He knew, to get out of the way, and I uppercut the guy before his feet touched the ground and knocked him all the way back over the railing again. And I turned around, I do my deal, get back with that babyface. And I look at the corner of my eye, and this guy's got two buddies that are dragging him by his feet out the door because I had knocked him out. So, yeah, I mean, stuff like that happens. It's not something you want to happen, but you have to protect yourself. And that was the thing is I'd never have seen the guy coming because I don't pay attention to the crowd. I'm concentrating on what I'm doing, but that referee saw, and he knew what was going to happen if I didn't know. So,
Rodney?
Yeah, we had an incident in one of the shows in Georgia. Sponsor Superstar was against Tommy Rich, and of course Tommy was doing what he does best. And the sponsor tried to come in the ring with the broom. And Dad was refereeing. Our father, Ron West, was refereeing the match. And Dad stopped and said, "Oh, no, go sit down. Normally, he wouldn't have had any sympathy whatsoever. He would have took the broom away from the guy and beat him up with it. But no, he said, no, go sit down. Everything's fine. Go sit down. Yeah, we've had them coming from. If you watch what I was talking about with Ole and the turn from Atlanta, you have people, fans jumping up on the cage. You can watch just about anything from Dothan, and you'll see a fan get snatched. And the fans in Dothan do get involved, especially the night our father got beat up by Arn Anderson, Jerry Stubbs, and Sonny King. The fans grabbed him by the leg and snatched him out of the ring to protect him, and then it was over. And then Sonny King said, "Are you trying to get us killed?" And he said, "Yeah, pretty much."
If you remember Arn Anderson, Jerry Stubbs, they were teaming at the time. They said, "Ronnie, stop it. stop it, because what he was doing, he would get beat up, and he was doing this. He was like asking him to help him.
Yeah.
And he said, stop it, you're going to get us killed. And but Dad just kept on doing it because they just kept on beating him. You got to remember now, he got some blood on television. So so he comes to the arena that night, and he gets beat up again and busted up again by Anderson and Jerry Stubbs. Actually, he was leaving to go back to work for Mid-South Wrestling, so that's the reason they did that. Did that angle. Anything else we need to talk about? There's a lot more we can talk about about the Hills and professional wrestling. Jack, anything we need to talk about before we move on?
No, I think we've covered it pretty good.
Rodney?
No, I think we got it.
Well, there we go. We will talk about it more often. We'll talk a little bit more about the inside stuff of professional wrestling. We're going to change things up, and as we get to 2021, there's going to be a lot of new stuff going on. All right, now let's go ahead and let's talk about promoters in professional wrestling. There has been, I would say, 40, 50 promoters in professional wrestling throughout the years. I think one of the people that we need to talk about first, and we've talked about several times, probably one of the most controversy promoters of all time, and that would have to be Nick Gulas.
Yeah, very successful.
Very successful promoter.
Very successful. Knew how to promote. He knew what he was doing. All the bad things you say about that we've heard from him, but he definitely knew what he was doing. And because he did it for years, absolutely did it for years. Now, payoffs may not be so good, but you can't deny his success.
No, we always said he had he'd always walk around, and we call it the Nick Gulas wad.
Yeah,
and have a wad of money, and this money would be $100 bill would be on the outside of this wad of money. But it would all be ones after that. But it would be huge.
That's right. That's right.
That was Nick Gulas. Nick Gulas was a character, but he was a very nice man. He was nice to us. And I know he kind of did some people wrong, but I don't think he did people like Jackie Fargo, Tojo Yamamoto. I think he knew better than to do them wrong. Don't you think so, Jack?
Yeah. I only had the opportunity to meet him one time, and he was just really, really super nice to me.
Yeah, they had a show for Nick Gulas. Georgia Championship Wrestling did. It was a Nick Gulas appreciation night, and I'll never forget that he almost cried that night. And you wouldn't think that he would have even cared. But he did, and he kept on saying, he'd always, every time we saw him, he would say the same thing. I started you, Ronnie. I started your daddy. He would tell us that every time we'd see him.
Sure would.
Nick was I have nothing but respect for him, and I don't see George Gulas as bad as many people look at him. I don't think the fans seen it that way. I think the wrestlers did, but I don't think the fans did. Let's talk about another great promoter. When we're talking about Nick Gulas, I won't even say great. Jack Pfeffer. Jack, have you heard any stories about poor old Jack Pfeffer?
He was just one of those notorious promoters that would use any means necessary, in order to keep promoting cards. He got blackballed out of the business, and he just didn't take no for an answer. So he came back with, instead of Buddy Rogers, it was Bubby Rogers, I believe, and all kinds of rip-off gimmick names. He get guys to come in and do those things, and he was fairly successful for a long time. So I never heard stories about the payoffs, so I can't testify to what those were. But he stayed in business for a long time.
Now let's remember the NWA World Heavyweight Champion there for several times was Jackie Fargo. So this he wanted, And Jack Pfeffer wanted Nick Goulas to make sure that he called Jackie Fargo the NWA World Champion. And I remember Dad said he was sitting on there and he said, I can't do that. The NWA will throw me out of here if I say he's the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. But you know, Jack Pfeffer was the original person. Eventually, Nick Goulas would do that as well. He had guys to do the same. He would say the same. Now, I don't know that he did that in his earlier years when Roy Welch was with him, but he did do that once he was away from.
Oh yeah, he would. He would announce Mr. Wrestling 1 and 2, and then when we went there, it was Mr. Wrestling 1 and 3.
Yeah, it was. Bad stuff. Ray Candy one time, it ended up being completely a different Ray Candy one time. So.
And see, Dad already told us before we went there that they were not going to be there. He said he can't because he's in Georgia.
This is true. Richard Hood asked this question, guys. Who was the best payoff promoter? I'll start that. I think Paul Bosch might have been the best payoff promoter of all time. I think he paid his wrestlers really good. Jack, anyone else?
Yeah, I'd always heard that, and I always heard Crockett was very good.
Yeah, Jimmy Crockett.
Rodney?
Yeah, Jim Crockett Sr. And I, like I said, I've never heard anybody say anything bad about Jim Crockett Sr. ever.
Now, worst payoff might have been Nick Goulas. I don't know. Or Bob Geigel. The two of them people could have been. Stuart Kemp talked about Don Owens. Don Owens promoted wrestling in Portland, Oregon. Mm-hmm. A very nice man. That man was a tremendous man. I talked to him several times during the years that he was promoting wrestling. He was such a nice man. I remember one time he said, hey, he kind of had this talk about him. Hey, you think you could come to Portland? I'll never forget. And he kind of reminded me a little bit of a Stu Hart. And he said, you think you could come to Portland and help me book this thing? And I'm thinking, that's a long way from Tennessee. I don't think I'm going to Portland, Oregon, but he was a nice man. And I think he was a very fair promoter. I think he really was a fair payoff man. I don't think business was great there, but I think he really would pay his guys what they were supposed to get.
Well, Roddy Piper always had, he always, whenever he could do stuff for Don Owens, he would always go back and do it because he loved working for Don. Don gave him, I guess, some of his first opportunities, but he also treated him very well.
Yeah. Michael Barr asked, who was Bob Geigel? Rodney, I'll let you.
He was a wrestler that turned promoter, and then he was eventually the president of the National Wrestling. But he promoted primarily in Kansas City and St. Louis area, Central States, yeah.
And Bob Geigel was the president of the National Wrestling Alliance for a while. And if you'll notice, almost every time somebody was the president, if Bob Geigel was the president of the National Wrestling Alliance, Harley Race was the World Heavyweight Champion. Yeah. It just ended up that way. Jim Crockett was the president. Ric Flair was the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Yep. So it just so happened that's how it went. And another Sam Muchnick, another great promoter in professional wrestling, one of the best, Daniel, in pro wrestling. Let's talk about Cowboy Bill Watts. He was a no-nonsense promoter.
Exactly right.
He did not take anything from anybody, and maybe some people got away with some stuff. Even if he fined them, he might have gave them back the money on a bonus here and there. But he was a very hard promoter, wasn't he, Rodney?
Yes, he was. But he was just somebody that you didn't cross him. And he'll tell you, just like Ole said many times, I can lose money with or without you. And there was no doubt who the boss was. When Watts was there, he was the boss. And the buck stops with him. And, if he tells you he doesn't want you wearing a warm-up suit, that's exactly what it means. And he showed no favoritism when it comes to that. He would fine Buddy Landell. Landell was fined so much that he ended up paying Watts to work. So
think he did. We'll talk about
what he was doing. He knew the psychology of the business, and he knew how to promote the big shows. I mean, we've said some things here, but does not just because we disagree on some certain things doesn't mean that he wasn't a great promoter, because he really was.
Yeah, he was very good. Someone that Jack watched several times, Fred Ward in Columbus, Georgia. Jack, what did you think about Fred Ward?
I love Fred Ward. He was a good man. He had told me, when I got out of the Army, to come back and see him, and actually I did. But by that time, he was right at the tail end of doing any promoting, and so I never did get a chance to actually work for him. But I used to go to the matches every Wednesday night there in Columbus, and man, just tremendous shows. Fred connected with his audience. As a promoter, he knew his audience. Smallest crowd I ever saw there was probably 2,500, and and it wasn't unusual to have 5,000, which I think is about building capacity there. So, yeah, great cards, great memories of Fred.
Fred Ward, the only problem Dad would always have with Fred is if Fred didn't like to have any heat. And if he was up front around the fans and something happened in the ring that was bad, they would all get up there, and he couldn't just say, well, I can't do nothing about it. I can't. No, he had to go in the ring and reverse the decision. He did that so many times in Columbus, Georgia. It made Ole Anderson so mad Ole would refuse to go back to Columbus, Georgia for a long period of time. You remember this, Rodney?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he taught. He had to teach Fred a lesson about that. He reversed the decision over an incident a week before, so they had another referee the match, and Dad stayed with Fred Ward, and this did the exact same thing, but this time it was the opposite way. And he said, "Did you not reverse the decision last week because of this?" He said, "Now go up there and reverse this decision too." "Well, I'm not going to do that." "Yeah, you have to." He said, "If you don't, I will. And I'll tell them that you told me to do it. So you either go up there and you reverse the decision just like you did last week, or I'll do it for you, whichever you prefer." So he said, "I'll never do that again." He said, "Just let me know when something's happening. I'll be hid."
Mickey Mayfield asked a question: did the promoter Paul Jones ever wrestle, or was he just a promoter? He did wrestle. Paul Jones did wrestle. And I mean, he was in wrestling for years. He might have been in wrestling 60 years.
Yeah.
As far as being a promoter and a wrestler. And, Paul Jones was more of a, by the time we were there, he was more of a figurehead than he was. He still owned part of Georgia Championship Wrestling. But he'd just show up at the shows, and he would come out and make matches at the Atlanta City Auditorium. And a very nice man, by the way. He was a great guy. Charlie Harbin was a promoter in professional wrestling. A lot of people wouldn't know who he is, but Charlie Harbin would take, let's say if he left Atlanta, I don't know, at 7 in the morning, he might arrive in Chattanooga by 5 that afternoon, and it's only a 2-hour trip. Charlie Harbin was the slowest man. He not only drove slow, but he also walked slow. They'd have a 15-minute match at the Memorial Auditorium in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and it would take him the whole 15 minutes to walk from one side of that stage to the other side of the stage at the Memorial Auditorium. I've never seen such a slow man in my life.
They'd have to have him to come down and make matches, and it'd take him forever to get down the aisle to get to the ring.
He was something else. Let's see. Jack, what about Mickey Henry?
Me and Alan had a lot of experience there. Mickey was cut from that Nick Gillis cloth, and I'll just leave it at that.
You have to give Mickey Henry all the credit in the world. How long has he been promoting, Jack?
He is close to 40 years now.
Wow.
I mean, you have to give him the credit. No matter what people want to think about Mickey Henry, I have to give him. He's been promoting wrestling nonstop for 40 years. Richard Hood, Jim Barnett, Jack, how important was Jim Barnett to professional wrestling?
I think he was huge.
Rodney?
Yeah, no doubt. He was there in the beginning when wrestling first went up. When TV started, he was there in the beginning to put it on. Then he went on to Georgia Championship Wrestling. Also had some interest in Florida and then Australia. Big business, just about everywhere he went. Just huge.
The original WCW in Australia.
Yeah, and we
did a post on that. Carl Cox was on that.
Yeah. Richard was mentioning Jarrett and Welch Promotions, and Lynn Gross had mentioned Jarrett as a smart promoter. He was. The key to Jarrett, I've always said, and I think, was the fact that Memphis never changed. He never lost his arena. He never lost his TV. It stayed steady throughout his entire time and being in business. That's the key. Lots of places did not have that. Atlanta, the big loss was the Atlanta City Auditorium. Once it was gone, things were never the same. Never the same.
Richard Hood also said Roy Schreier, and he was a very smart Los Angeles, California promoter. He knew don't give him a lot. He got mad at Pat Patterson and Ray Stevens for giving them too much in one night. And he said, I'm going to be here when you're gone. So don't do that ever again. Don't have good matches. I don't need no good matches. I just need that.
Just give me a middle of the road, Great.
Yeah.
Well, he understood his crowd.
Herb Abrams.
Herb Abrams. I ain't got no money to pay you, boys, but I got cocaine back at the hotel.
Leonard did say Jerry Jarrett was a smart promoter, so much that Vince liked him and worked with them that it in itself speaks volumes.
Well, obviously, Vince watched that show because it actually WWF was almost Jarrett Promotions, just in a bigger scale. I mean, with all the gimmicks and everything. I mean, it was.
Well, when Vince was looking at possibly going to prison, when the government was, had the whole steroid thing trials going on with him, he'd brought Jerry Jarrett in to take over in case he did go to prison. So, Vince had a lot of respect for what Jerry did.
It's amazing if you watch or listen to something to wrestle with. Now, Bruce Pritchard says that never happened, that he wasn't there to do that. You talk to James J. Dillon, he said, yes, it did. So I don't know who to actually believe is telling the truth. I don't know. Was he there to do that? Jerry Jarrett said he was there to do that.
Yep.
So I don't know. I guess you just have to.
Well, if we really want to get down to the bottom of it, let's ask Cornette. He knows everything.
All right. Well, there's no doubt. There's so many more promoters. We need to do a whole. We need to talk about Jim
Mayfield once again agrees with me, and when he agrees with me, it's only right that we should acknowledge his agreement with me. Right there, Mickey Mayfield. I agree with Rodney that Atlanta Municipal Auditorium was the great place to experience wrestling. When it closed, the industry totally changed.
Yes.
Yep. That is my favorite place to ever go to. I loved it there.
Richard was talking about the giant Baba. Yeah. Awesome.
Well, we definitely need to do a series on all the promoters.
Yes.
Slim Length, Jim Barnett, Nick Goulas, Roy Welch, the whole promoters and the territories of professional. And talk about the territories and how many territories there were. At one time, there were over 32. And I think Rodney's got a book for the National Wrestling Alliance. And we'll look through that. We'll go through that one episode. And we'll go through the official list. You would get one every year, and it would tell you the main people and whose company was who and who was the booker, who was the assistant booker, and it was all in the National Wrestling Alliance book. And we'll look at that on one of the programs, and we'll talk more about the territories and the promoters of professional wrestling. If you're watching this, give us that big thumbs up. The big ho! Big thumbs up and subscribe to the page, and we certainly appreciate it because every time you like it, it lets us know that you care what we're doing. All right, guys, you ready to finish it up with the insiders and see what everybody has got to say? Let me see where I was. Well, I don't know where I was when
We're talking about Herb Simmons from St. Louis, ran for 45 years. Richard talked about Antonio Inoki. Daniel Lane said that Vince McMahon Sr. asked Jarrett to look out for his son because he knew how many enemies he would make. Mike Barr, are you catching up now? Michael Barr, so much can be said about territories, about wrestling and promoters, especially Atlanta. Glenn Allen Shelton used the numbers 108. Apparently, that might be his lottery numbers for tonight. Richard Hood, Carlos Colon.
Yes.
Puerto Rico, huge. And then, of course, the Funks, Dory Funk Sr., promoted out of Amarillo. Just awesome.
Victor asked if there are any shows next week. Not next week. We're going to take off the week for Christmas, and we will return the very next week. I think it's the 28th and 29th, but we will take off next week for Christmas. Also coming soon, don't forget that we will have T-shirts available on Pro Wrestling Tees. Great T-shirts. Jack has bought several. He says they're tremendous, tremendous stuff. Jack, you bought a couple of shirts from them, hadn't you?
Oh, yeah, I buy a shirt every month from there, trying to support somebody in the industry. There's a tremendous amount of wrestlers in the independents and some of the older name guys that have their products there. Go there and buy one. There's all kinds of great stuff.
Glenn said 108 was not his lottery numbers, but in fact the territories, they were 108 at the time. That's awesome. That is awesome.
Somebody asked if we had reached our mark on YouTube. Michael Barr asked, did we make? No, we're one short from 1,000. It has been 999 for the last day. So if anybody's watching and you've not subscribed to the station, to YouTube, get over there and subscribe to that so we can get that 1,000. You have to subscribe. Just help us out. Let us get to that 1,000 mark for YouTube. Because if not, I may have to go subscribe myself on there just to get us to that 1,000.
You haven't? You ask everybody else to do something that you haven't done? Shame.
Let's see. Freddie said, "Great show tonight as always. I miss the old school wrestling."
Yeah.
Yes, I think we all missed the way wrestling used to be, and no doubt about that. And I want to make sure we hadn't missed anything. Daniel Lang said that Bob Geigel was head of the NWA during 1985, where we are in the WCW videos. He would rule against Magnum TA for Starrcade 85. Wow. I don't think I watched that show every week on TBS back then. I don't remember.
Sometimes we would have been on the road, so it would not be possible.
Yeah. We did watch it while we were in Dothan a few times, but let's go back up before we leave and make sure we get some people some stuff.
Michael Barr was saying, Brent, I would be ashamed you didn't vote for yourself. That's what he says.
So what he said, yeah, I believe I have done so. But again, I've told you before, if I did it last week, I probably forgot that I did it. So, I didn't even remember what we were going to talk about yesterday on this show. So, I'm pretty sure
things were out of whack. You didn't have your computer. Blah blah blah.
Yes, now that did mess me up for a week. Not having the computer, that did do so. Mickey Mayfield said during one of the things, he said, have y'all seen the shoot interviews with Ricky Morton and Manny Fernandez? Jack, have you seen these?
No, I haven't.
He said no matter what they are talking about, they wind up arguing with each other. Yes, I've seen those. Yes, they do argue with each other. It's good stuff. They're very entertaining. They're very entertaining, so you can go over there and watch that. Victor Nash said it would have been Dusty Rhodes as the world champion if there wasn't no Ric Flair.
It's possible.
I don't know that Dusty would have been champion any more than what he was, though. Dusty's money that he made was in the chase, not in the holding.
Yeah, you're right. Honestly, because it would have been Jim Crockett as the president, possibly would have been Greg Valentine as the world champion. He was U.S. champion for a long time.
It should have been Ted DiBiase.
Yes, Ted DiBiase is. I always thought he should be the world champion.
James Mason said, "I love this show. You guys are so entertaining." So now, one guy said I needed some 5-hour energy drink. That's
because you didn't get started on time again.
Oh, that's the reason I needed that.
Yeah.
All right, I got it.
Earlier in the show.
Maybe I just didn't understand that. Daniel Lang said, "This episode makes me sad because poor Floyd the horse didn't have much time left." Stuart Kemp said, "Hello, all. The Dusty Baby doll stuff is classic TV. We seem to not be able to do that anymore. If we could, who could do it?" Heck.
I think a lot of today's talent could do stuff, and they're just not allowed to. There's nobody that you see on TV that's not so heavily scripted and told everything that they've got to do and every match detail planned out. And what made wrestling so great back in the day was they just told you, hey, go out, you're gonna be working Tully Blanchard, go out there and cut an interview about it. They didn't go into detail. They left it up to you because they trusted that you knew who your character was. And none of these folks now get the opportunity to be their own character. Jericho is one of the few exceptions, and I think he's, he knows enough. AEW trusts him to go out and pull off what he needs to pull off because nobody understands Jericho better than Jericho. But a lot of these people could do it if they were given free reign to do it.
Victor Nash said, "I'm still waiting on the Kevin Sullivan show, Rod."
Yes.
Kirkpatrick said, "Jim Crockett Promotion is getting ready to be white hot." From here on.
Yeah, it's gonna be.
Let's see. Let me see where we're going to go with this. The next page. Dennis Mitchell said, "I also like Columbus Championship Wrestling." Yeah. It was a good show. Columbus had some great wrestling.
Yep.
They said Jim Cornette talked about it in length. I'm guessing when we talked about Dennis Mitchell said Ron Starr was in the Midnight Express. Maybe that was the other guy I was thinking about.
Could have been.
Leonard said it was snowing where he's at. Rodney and Brent, I want to wish you a very Merry Christmas. Jack, I will be talking to you, but Merry Christmas also. This is the only player I watch, so that tells you how good you guys are. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Leonard.
We certainly do appreciate it. We do try to have fun. That's the one thing we tried to do. We had fun in the wrestling business. We tried to make it fun. We did not want to make it. And I think a lot of people, they don't make wrestling. In the wrestling, they don't make it fun. And you got to have it because it will be over soon, folks. Before you know it, you're going to wake up. You're going to be 50 years old. So if you're a 20-year-old, have fun with what you're doing. Don't worry about whether you're winning or losing or what you. Just have fun with it. Am I telling the truth, Jack?
Live in the moment.
Exactly right.
Live in the moment for sure.
Stuart said worst bail was a coffee can we use.
That's right. That was the one at the farm center, I believe. It was the coffee can. That's right. Or a paint can or one, something like that.
Richard Hood said a great heel controls the match. Michael Barr said what makes a good heel is the way you show your attitude. It's sort of like having a split personality. You help give babyface look better. As long as you do that, you are a good heel, but you got to make sure you do put the babyface over because that working with Mike and Randy, this has been what they preached, and it's a lost art. I truly see now watching after training. Taylor Bowling.
Taylor's talking about Mike Mason and Randy Rogers.
Okay, so you know Taylor Bowen?
Yeah, Taylor's one of the new trainees that we've got for Wrestle South.
Okay. Leonard said, look at anything Taylor did, and you would know what makes a great bad guy. Yes, he was tremendous. Best heel, Greg Hickey said superstar Billy Graham in the late 70s. I think we already got Michael's stuff there. Mickey Mayfield said, loved watching Bruiser Brody while kicking your. He was steadily talking smack about you.
That's right.
Stuart Kemp said, a great bad guy is one who's able to be convincing to themselves. I worked that way for all my career. It mattered not if I won or lost. The reality was I won a handful of matches, but people wanted to see me get my butt handed to me every time I was first matched the main event. It mattered not. My face is always shown one way or the other. Yep. Daniel Lang said he liked double turns. Like when Jimmy Valiant pushed Tommy Rich's mama. I remember that. Jack, you ever see that? You've ever seen that?
No, I heard about it, but I never did see it.
Or when Stone Cold wouldn't submit to Bret Hart sharpshooter, that was some good stuff.
Yep.
Great storytelling, no doubt. Victor Nash, we did that. Is this true? Victor Nash said today's biggest heel is Roman Reigns. You agree with that, Jack?
I agree with that.
And I guess he is a heel. I don't guess he's in the middle, is he?
No, he has firmly established himself as a heel.
Kevin said Roddy Piper made the WWE, WWF. Flair and Steamboat tagged a while in Atlantic Wrestling. Yeah, crazy some others. That famous thing he did, that Boogaloo or something festival. I mean, them people were throwing stuff at him, and I mean, he was really making them people mad. You seen this, guys?
Yeah, I've seen it. It was awesome. And he just played along with it. He didn't really expect it, I don't think, but yeah, he just played along with it. It's great.
Greg asked the question, ever had a date turn heel on you? We've all had that.
I had 2 marriages go heel.
Let's move on past some more of this stuff. And Daniel Lang said Flair played the babyface perfectly for a Flair for the GOAT against Harley Race. Yes, no doubt. Michael Barr said Bob Armstrong the Bullet as the fan favorite as a babyface under a mask. He was tremendous at that, and was over.
Yeah,
I mean, tremendous. He was over. Michael Barr said Leon Baxter, who wrestled with Wrestling Pro, told me several years ago they had been threatened with a knife several times and had bad things said to him as well. Well, yeah, there's a lot of bad things said.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Jack can tell a lot of the bad things said to him.
Yeah.
When we were talking about JYD's story about when he was supposed to be blinded, but the fan with the gun was coming after the Freebirds. Freebirds had the most heat during this time because it just coincided with JYD's daughter being born, and that was just tremendous heat. We got about 6 more minutes, so we'll see if we can get some more people in. Mickey Mayfield said both Ole and Harley Race said they were stabbed by fans during matches.
Yep.
And Ole actually wrestled still with that being.
Yes.
So he got sewed up and he went to work the next night.
He did. He did not stop. Michael Barr said, yes, Rodney, doesn't have been the place for the bad fans. We saw a few fans.
Oh, yeah. And Larry Brock got his share of them, I'll tell you right now.
Richard Hood said, when you're causing the fans to come in the ring, that is real heat. Daniel Lang said, Ox Baker trying to get away from the ring in Cleveland after giving Ernie Ladd several heart punches.
One of the best videos ever. Chairs flying. That's great.
What did Charlie Platt mean when he talked about C. Ronnie West? Did Ronnie ever promote wrestling? Yes, he promoted several stuff. I will tell you the reason he was called C. Ron West was because every time Ron Fuller would be in the back and our father was back there, Ron Fuller will always say, "See Ron West, see Ronnie West, see Ronnie West." So Gordon Soley just started calling him "See Ronnie West" on television shows.
Well, imagine see Ronnie West. Where am I going next week? See Ronnie West.
What about my payoff? It was
See
too
Ronnie West.
That's always the thing. Kevin Penley said, "I tried last summer to find Nick Gould's grave in Nashville, but couldn't find it. I don't even know where it would be. I don't know that I'd ever knew that." Did Johnny Walker promote in Hawaii?
Probably right by the Yellow Pond.
Stuart Kemp talked about Stu Hart. Let me tell you something, kid. Let me take it down to the dungeon. Stu Hart. I never was a fan of any of that stuff on there, though. Y'all watched his wrestling show, Stampede Wrestling? I just couldn't get into the wrestling for some reason. Was it just a?
It was just different from what we're used to. It's like New York. New York wrestling was so different from what we're used to down here.
Didn't they have?
Not that it was bad. It's just not what we were used to.
Yeah, it's different.
Didn't they have, Rodney, like red cards, and they would give you a? I think that's how we came up with it when we was doing United Wrestling, the 3 rule infraction. Because didn't they have the little yellow card, the red card?
Yeah, I believe you're right.
You do something, you get in trouble.
And they also had that, I think, the similar thing in Europe they were using too.
Yeah.
But now Stu Hart was a great promoter. Now, Sir Kemp talked about, yes, he was. He was there for a long time, drew a lot of money for many, many years. So no doubt. Let's say Stuart Kemp said Don paid the guys out of the drawer, throw them in the bills. Then the guys would clear the throat, and Don would open the drawer and pay out a couple more bills.
This enough?
Well, that was Michael Barr said that Chris Adams was there. Chris Adams is a promoter. There's a Chris Adams, a wrestler.
Chris Adams was a booker in Texas for a while, but that was really after the heyday of the Von Erichs.
Mickey Mayfield said, "I've heard stories about promoters not wanting to pay low-card wrestlers and Abdullah refusing to go on until they did." Well, now, how would he know that prior to the – because guys really didn't get paid. They got a weekly check, so I don't know how he would know that.
Yeah.
Maybe it did happen. So I don't know. We wasn't around Abdullah Butcher that much. So I don't know. Jack said, "Who were some of the main promoters in South East and later Continental?" Rodney?
Roy Lee Welch was a promoter for a long time. And of course, our father was another one. I can't think of any of the other ones around there. The guy that would promote in Dick Dunn, he promoted New Brockton. So that's the only ones I can think of right now.
Jack, do you know of any?
Just the names that you mentioned.
Richard Hood, when we were talking about promoters, he said Frizz Von Erich.
Yeah.
And this smart man. Frizz Von Erich was a smart man. And he knew what he had with his sons, and he knew what kind of money he could. Glenn Allen asked, "Jack, do you know what Ed, does that say Chumman?
Chuman.
Doesn't ring a bell.
Richard Hood said Joe Blanchard.
Yeah, San Antonio.
He was good, and we already talked about Mickey Mayfield. John Baba in Japan. Smart guy, knew what he was doing. Stewart said Herb Simmons in St. Louis ran 45 years. I don't know if y'all ever heard of him. I'm not for sure I've ever heard of him.
Yeah, I've heard of him. Yeah.
Antonio Inoki in Japan as well. I think one of them was All Japan, one of them was New Japan. Which one was which? I'm for sure I remember.
I can't keep up with all those.
Richard Hood talked about Carlos Colon. He was a great promoter as well. We don't talk to him about him much here because of what happened to Bruiser Brody. So we try to not to even talk about that. Let's see. Victor Dash said, Merry Christmas to all of us. The Guerreros in Mexico. And that's where they promoted, right, in Mexico? Gory Guerrero, or was it in Texas?
Now, Gory promoted in Texas also.
Richard Hood also said Ed Francis. Well, he says, Jack, if you could be a promoter. Well, Jack has been a promoter.
I have.
Michael Barr asked that.
I did not enjoy it. That's why I stick to booking, because I'm good at that.
Tyrone Spivey said, love Fred Ward. Mickey Mayfield said, Ann Gunkel. Tyrone also said, Greg Valentine was a great heel. And but anyway, Stuart Kemp said New Japan Pro Wrestling, Inoki, All Japan was Bob. And Scott Dodson also told us the same thing. Guys, is there anything that we need to talk about before we leave?
I'll say this real quick. We were talking about fans jumping the railings or doing stuff they shouldn't do at arenas and getting kicked out. But I was watching something today. I don't remember what it was, but Matthew McConaughey, the actor, was on, and he was talking about bringing Rotten Tomatoes into his show. He said, now he's from Texas, so he said WWE, but I think he was thinking world class. But Skandar Akbar was the manager, and he threw Rotten Tomatoes at Skandar Akbar and pelted him pretty good, and wound up getting kicked out and barred from the building. So of course, he was a kid when that happened. I thought that was a great little story out of nowhere.
Rodney, anything we need to talk about before we leave?
Michael Barr was talking about Dick Dunn. He was ex-police officer in East Laurie, Alabama. He wrestled in Dothan. He was old school, and he's passed on.
Rodney, anything you want to talk about before we leave?
Nope, that'll be it.
Well, folks, be looking at Facebook soon. Our T-shirts will be available on Pro Wrestling Tees, so make sure you look for that. And also, if you like to support our channel, you can support our channel by going to Facebook. It's right at the top of that. Become a supporter is what it says, and you can support us. And
hey, Tim Horner's saying hey. Tim Horner saying hey.
How you doing, Tim Horner? And hope you're going to have a Merry Christmas, and we're going to have to get you back on the show. We're just trying to wait until we try to find out where people want. While you're talking, you don't go off for about 2 minutes and then come back. We're working on it.
Hey, Jack, Victor Nash wants to know what's the biggest size T-shirts do they have?
I believe they go up to 6X.
Okay, all right then.
Yeah.
So we will be going to Pro Wrestling Tees, and so be looking for our Facebook. Be watching on Facebook, and we're also going to kind of change stuff at the first of the year. If you have went to Facebook and you have posted something there, you have asked a question there, we're going to start answering them at the first of the year during our live shows. So that way everybody gets, we do answer some of them questions. We're not always able to get to all them questions and answer them. So we'd like to try to answer some of those for people who are asking questions on there that we don't get to. So, but thank you so much. And we hope that everyone has a Merry Christmas. We will not be with you next week. We will return. We hope you all have a Merry Christmas, and we hope that Santa Claus brings you some great gifts for this bad 2020 that we have had. But hopefully Santa Claus will be nice to you as well for Christmas. Jack, Merry Christmas to you. Rodney, Merry Christmas to you, and Merry Christmas to all the Pro Wrestling Insiders. We certainly do appreciate it. And we will see you on the 28th. But now next Monday and Tuesday, we'll be talking. We already did some stuff, and we talked about Georgia Championship Wrestling, and that's what that's what you'll be seeing next week on Monday and Tuesday. Thank you so much, and we'll see you on the next episode of Pro Wrestling Inside Now.